Today, I thought we'd just have some good tips about how folks can improve their relationships. And I have found 5 things that you can do immediately to improve your relationship.
Ooh, everybody loves a list.
There's the old adage that, like, if you are working someplace, there's always somebody that person hates at work.
Right.
There's always that one person that you just,
I told you
and
that bitch was crazy.
right. It's those things that don't cost me anything, right?
It's
They
the
maybe
little
aren't my
things. It's
favorite
the
things to
little
do.
things.
Right. It's the little things. They don't cost me anything to do. But they found in that study that frequent cuddling and kissing are really important elements of a happy relationship long term. Not that I'm trying to like tally up all my goods so I can do something horrible.
Right, right. You're not
You know,
stockpiling good. All right, I
yeah,
got enough good now. I can do some shit.
right.
Artlist.io.
Hello,
Hello, and welcome to Rainbow Dreamcatcher, the
the
Love Podcast.
Love Podcast.
My name is Nilla. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and relationship coach, and I travel the world helping individuals and partners learn the skills they need to have happy and healthy relationships.
And I'm Big Sexy, her loving husband and co host, here to provide levity.
Just a little bit of fun, a little bit of the good stuff.
So, what are we talking about today?
So today, I thought we'd just have some good tips about how folks can improve their relationships. I think that's probably the question that I hear most often, whether it's in session, out of session. So I did a little bit of research and I have found 5 things that you can do immediately to improve your relationships.
Ooh, everybody
Um,
loves a list.
yeah, I like the list too. I think it's helpful because sometimes it's easy to forget how to do these things if we don't do them regularly. So, for all of these things, as we get started, I'd first say if you don't do this on a regular basis already, and check in, because sometimes people think that they are doing this and they're really not. Right? Any of these things, the best thing you can do is make a routine. It sounds super, super boring. It sounds like kind of a chore. And I would tell you that relationships that do really well invest time and they invest energy. And sometimes that's boring, right? To learn new things, right? So I would encourage you that if you want to improve your relationships immediately, you figure out a way to do these 5 things every single day and that you make it a routine as opposed to something that you do spontaneously. What'll happen is that routine will become spontaneous. It doesn't work the other way around, right?
Right.
So,
And it
what do you
becomes a
think
habit.
the first number one tip might be to improve relationship? And I'll give you a hint. It's something that we do on a regular basis.
Uh, be curious about the other person's day, or be curious about the other person.
See, I think you're just too good. I think we've been together for too long. So that's another thing. That is definitely something that we do. So let's walk down that road. I was gonna go to a different one first, but that's okay. Actually, there's no one of these is greater than any of the others,
Oh,
right?
it's not.
So
They're not ranked. The number
they're not
one
ranked.
thing.
These are not ranked.
Yeah. Okay.
No. So that's something that we actually definitely do. Um, and that's hard to do after a long period of time. Let's just be real about that, right? When you first start dating somebody, you are learning everything you can about that person. You're learning about their schedule, you're learning about their preferences, the things they like and don't like, their meal times. Like, I mean, I don't know. You remember what it was like for us. What was it like for us when we first maybe started hanging out? Like, for real, for real.
Uh, I mean, we would often ask each other about, what our days were like and, how work was and, uh,
Say that
what
again.
things we had going on. We enjoyed, at being curious about one another and asking each other about our days and our jobs and, what was happening in our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So the question becomes, and this is a question that I think I get a lot, or at least people in, I think, early in relationship often have this question. Younger people have this question a lot, which is, what happens when you know everything there is to know about your partner? I mean, I don't know, you're living with this person every day, you see them every day, you know them in every possible mood, you know them in almost every possible circumstance. Like, how do you stay interested and how do you stay checked in? So here's the deal. Uh, Part of it is having a large enough world to be an interesting partner, right? Which can be very, very tough for people, right? um, because part of understanding and connecting with another person is just understanding what their world is like, right? So what I advise folks to do is, whatever worlds are separate from your partner, whether that is separate in terms of time, like, I don't know, you spend some time doing this thing and I spend some time doing that thing, like work or childcare or whatever takes up your day apart from your spouse or your partner, and talk about both just get curious, right? Just get curious about what's happening. I think a lot of times folks feel like, uh, there's the old adage that, like, if you are working someplace, there's always somebody that person hates at work.
Right.
Right? There's
I
always
told,
that one person that just,
I told you
and
that bitch was crazy.
right. And you're just going to hear about that person over and over again. It might get somewhat boring, but it's important to share things with your partner. And if they're describing what's happening in their world, try to participate if you can. Now, for the partners that are sharing, it's also important to try to share broadly about a lot of things in your experience, right? Not just your frustrations and complaints, but also, which leads to our next point, uh, the things that you celebrate and appreciate about your partner. And
Oh,
that's
okay.
actually what I thought you were going to say.
Was the
Because
appreciation?
was the appreciation. I think, yeah. Uh, I'm sure we have talked about this before. If we haven't, I'm going to talk about it a thousand times. I find it to be such a good exercise for partnership and relationships, even if it's not a romantic relationship, like a work partnership. These things are so helpful. I'm going to let you take it away because we've been doing this now for years. So when we talk about appreciation, what's our regular appreciation routine?
Oh, well, that's our State of the Union, where we talk about the one thing that the partner did well, five things we appreciate, one thing that I wish had gone differently, and then what can I do to help you feel more loved and appreciated?
Yeah, it's a pretty regular practice. We sometimes fall off a week or two, sometimes maybe three, depending on how busy we get.
Right. But
But
we always come back to it. We always
we
make
always
sure to
come
come
back to
back to
it.
it.
And I don't know. I have a professional eye, so I don't have any perspective about this. I'm curious for you, if you can think about, since we started doing this, and we started doing this, I don't know what, 5 or 6 years ago, something like that.
Well, how long you been in? This is a post therapy thing,
Post
and you've
our
been doing
therapy.
therapy. No, I mean, no, this is a post you starting to do therapy.
Yes, oh yeah, for sure. But I think
So
we
it's
actually
within
started
that
doing
window.
this. I think we started doing this after you and I went to couples counseling. I think that's when
Okay.
this practice actually started. So that would have been 20, probably either
Yeah, I don't know.
2019,
Maybe.
probably
I don't know. Time
2019.
is stupid. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been a lot of years, right?
Right.
Um, have you seen what have you seen improve as a result of that practice in our relationship? I'm curious.
I think I've noticed there has been like, well, one, there's a thing about, paying attention to each other a little bit more.
Mhm.
There has been working on, trying to focus on what people are doing or what we're doing
Mhm.
that is appreciated. And like, oh, that I appreciate that. Let me acknowledge that. It's kind of funny when you appreciate something in your moment and you go, that doesn't count. I'm gonna say that for later.
I do. I say that all the time. I'll be
Yeah,
like, thanks,
yeah.
but not until we have our State of the
Not
Union. That doesn't count.
not.
I'm using it.
I'm using it later. Don't take that from me. So yeah, the I tell you what has not gotten easier is the what can I do to help you feel more loved? Like that is
Interesting.
still it's just, I mean, I say it hasn't got easier. It does get, somewhat easier, and then you do kind of build up a list as you've gone over the time. Like, oh, I've said that, we haven't done this in a while. That'd be nice to do this again, or something along those lines.
Mhm.
Um, but I think there definitely, been like I said, appreciation has
Mhm.
grown,
Mhm.
and foster a deeper connection, as it were.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. And I think all of these things are connected. The next one, number three, because that's two, right? So where we are at, stay curious about each other and share each other's
Mm-hmm.
world and participate in each other's world. We have show and celebrate your partner with appreciation and gratitude. Um, Number three is learn to make small sacrifices for your partner. And this is really about kindness and prioritizing your partner, right? Now,
Okay.
I have to be very careful here because this is not about being self sacrificing, right?
Right.
There are those folks who, nail themselves to whatever religious edifice is appropriate for them, right? And they kind of like hang there waiting for someone else to do something for them too, and that's not what I mean. Uh, what I mean is you don't have to make like these grand sweeping gestures or like these life altering compromises. Like most of the time, you're not having those kinds of decisions with your partner, right? It's those things that don't cost me anything, right?
It's
They
the
maybe
little
aren't my
things. It's
favorite
the
thing to
little
do.
things.
Right. It's the little things. They don't cost me anything to do, but I do them because I know that it's a kind thing to do, that it prioritizes my partner over my needs, even though my needs are important. The way that that works, if I'm in a good assertive relationship, is that our needs should change priority, right? Sometimes your needs should be paramount, sometimes my needs should be paramount. And what's great is that when I come from a place of kindness with my partner, when I do prioritize my partner, it's because I choose to, right? Not because I'm forced to. And that's the
Right.
difference in like a healthy versus a toxic relationship. If I'm forced to prioritize somebody else's needs over an extended period of time over my own, that's just not healthy, right?
That
If
doesn't
I
sound healthy.
choose to, no, not at all. But if I choose to, in small ways and sometimes in large ways, prioritize the needs of another person, and they are willing to do the same for me, that is a really healthy relationship. And sometimes, I'll see young couples bickering. They're not fighting exactly. They don't understand why they're constantly like nipping at each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes it is these small things that they could do for their partner that they don't do for their partner, right? So
Ah,
rather than increasing positive feelings and reducing negative feelings in a way that doesn't really cost them anything, they just don't. And that feels really thoughtless. That
what's
comes
the
that becomes a
what do you
pattern.
what do you think's the hesitancy behind not doing it?
I think there's a couple different reasons, right? I think, well, and let's say this. It depends on the kind of relationship you're in, right? And that includes things like the ages and genders and sexual orientations of the partners that are participating in the relationship, right? because a lot of how folks have expectation around sacrifice and priority is shaped by larger systems in our society, right? So we get a lot of that stuff. In terms of the things that we choose, give me the question again. In terms of the things
I
that
was just asking, when you were saying that, young couples will start nitpicking, it's
yeah,
usually because they're not doing the little things that don't
yeah,
cost them anything,
yeah,
right? What is
uh,
usually the cause for them not doing it?
yeah. Often because it's not important to them, it's just not important, right? They forget that they are separate people and they should be separate people. And so they are going to come at things from a different perspective, and that the perspective isn't wrong. It just is different. And I think sometimes as folks don't really get, if it's not a problem for them, why should it be a problem for you? And often that's the kind of thing that just kind of sticks around because it doesn't matter to me, right? So,
Right.
if it doesn't bother me, then the question isn't like, how do I help it because it bothers you? The question is, why don't you stop letting that bother you? Why don't you just
Right.
stop being bothered? And that's a stance that is not kind, right? Um,
Right.
but is often the stance that people take because, like, I don't know, that's just the default. We often don't, you know, in
We as the
all the
people are
best,
selfish.
yeah, in the best of all worlds, we would always be kind and giving and selfless. But we are all a little bit selfish, and some of us are a lot of bit selfish. That's just true, and that's true of everybody. I'd say 99% of the populace. There are some folks who have certain uh, non-neurotypical brain structures where they really are just kind to everybody. But man, they're very, very rare,
Right.
right?
And a lot of
And
people like to think they're that way, but they ain't.
they're not. They're just not. Um, but if I'm in a partnership, what I want to do is be consciously kind, knowing that I'm not always kind, right? So in the small things where I can just be kind and I can make a small sacrifice for my partner, I can just do that, right? And if we do that for each other, then that creates a really kind, trusting environment. It increases positive emotion between partners. It reduces negative emotions when they occur. Um, you have to think about it like a bank, right? Like every day I'm depositing in the bank, right? And there'll be times where I need to make a withdrawal. Uh, and so I want to be just steadily chipping away, just putting in money in that bank every time I get an opportunity so that when I need to withdraw it, it's available for me, right? Not that I'm trying to like tally up all my goods so I can do something horrible. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. You're
You
not
get what I'm saying?
stockpiling good. All right. I
Yeah.
got enough good now. I can do some shit.
Right. Right. But here's what happens when you do that. When you are kind in small ways, people trust their partner more. When they believe that the relationship is a priority for them, they trust them more. This is what it is. Right. All right, cool. So that's number
All
three.
right.
That's number three. Number two is one that you will also really like. And that is they touch each other a lot more.
Oh, yes. I like that. I like it to touch it, touch it.
Yeah, I back in the 1950s, one of the therapists I studied and love is this woman Virginia Satir. You would love Satir as well. She was very much into the idea that physical touch made such a huge difference in people's lives. I think she said something like everyone needs 8 hugs a day uh, sorry, 11 hugs a day for well-being and 8 hugs a day for maintenance, something like that. Right?
See, I need to tap into that. That's my superpower right there.
Yeah, yeah. But it really the idea that physical affection makes is connected with people. Now, I have to also make a caveat here that there are folks for whom touch is not what they want, right?
Right.
For a variety of different reasons. So if touch and physical touch doesn't feel good to you, then this tip, you could throw this one out, right? This is for folks for whom touch is a pleasant experience, or they wish to have a connective experience with their partner, even if that touch feels unpleasant to them, right?
Yeah. If you
Because
don't
not
like the
everybody
physical
likes
touch,
physical
maybe
touch.
y'all can touch each other with your words. Give
Yeah,
some verbal hugs.
well, that would be the gratitude part, right? Because people have different levels of being tactile, and they also have different ways that they like being touched. One of the things I hear from couples across the spectrum are complaints about not having enough non-sexual touch, so that
Hmm.
folks fall into a pattern. Let's just admit it. Like once you're with a partner, there's kind of a like, let's get the old engine revving, like boom, 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 right? So that when
Let's
you
get them
start rubbing
juices
my
flowing.
shoulders, I know you're not just rubbing my shoulders,
Right.
right? When you're like, hey, can I rub you feet? You're not just rubbing my feet, you know. Um, but it's
Hmm.
really, really important for connection that folks also find ways to connect non-sexually, and that can be a lot of fun too, because that's a path of learning how to engage sensually and also with just friendly touch, right?
Right.
I
Just
think a
touch.
lot of, yeah, just touch. I think unfortunately a lot of people grow up without friendly touch. They don't understand the difference between friendly touch, bad touches, good touches. Unfortunately, a lot of kids are traumatized around touch, and
Right.
so that can also be very, very complicated. Um, but when you engage in physical affection with your partner, what the research shows is that it's really strongly associated with relationship satisfaction, right? So that if my partner is touching me and I'm touching my partner, and by touch that can be massage, caresses, kissing on the lips, kissing on the face, kissing other parts of the body,
Hugs.
hugs, cuddling. Uh, they're really important elements for a relationship. They did a study, just one study. There are tons of studies out there. So this is just one. Take it for what it is. But they looked at a little over 1,000 couples that had been together on average for 25 years. 25 years. Long term. These are the goats. They had done it for the longest.
Right.
They
The
found in
classics.
that study the classics, the vintages. They found in that study that frequent cuddling and kissing are really important elements of a happy relationship long term. And for this, think about anybody, however old you are, think about grandparents, whatever
I
age
was just gonna
grandparents are
say.
for you. And the cutest thing ever is a grandparent who's always kissing on and hugging on and loving on each other. That's because it's indicative of such a happy relationship over time, right? And those people weren't always happy. Guaranteed there were some unhappy
Right.
times in that relationship. However, they were able to, if you see that, then you see folks who are able to continue the practice of intimate touch, whether that is sexual or non-sexual, with an intimate partner across the long haul. So that's really super, super, super important. But check into how tactile your partner is. This is not a license for all you snuggle bugs out there to be suddenly rushing over to your partners who are less cuddly and smothering them
Just
with your
don't
love because it's good for them. you
just don't go
know?
grab a. I heard this on a podcast that I gotta touch you.
I got touch.
No,
Don't do that. Don't do
that's not
that.
what we're saying. That's
We ain't
not
said
what we're
nothing
saying.
like that. All
That's where
right.
the communication part comes in.
That's where the communication part comes in. The last part, the last thing that folks can do to improve their relationships is to learn how to have better fights.
Oh,
You
they can
got to
listen to our
have good
last episode
fights.
for that one.
Yeah. Well, what do you recall from our last episode about those better fights? What can folks do around better fights?
Speak non-violently.
Yep.
Uh,
that
listen,
was that was the title.
listen.
yes.
Right. I'm trying to, and I've been trying to input this on myself, and also behave in this fashion. But I found that if you spend more time listening than trying to get your point across, you'll fight less.
You'll what? You'll fight less.
You'll
Yeah.
fight less. You'll fight less.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I
Yeah. I agree.
listen to what's bothering you,
Mhm.
as opposed to explaining what's bothering me, and I try to really listen and hone in on that, you'll tend to fight less.
That's a really good point. I think what I find often happens is when defensiveness enters into fights, that's what makes them toxic, right? So, and what defensiveness will say is, you think I'm doing something wrong? Well, let me tell you what you're doing wrong, right? And so what ends up
Right.
happening is that two people are now talking about two different problems, and neither of those problems is getting solved, right?
Yeah. You feel
Um,
bad. I feel bad.
you know what? I feel bad now too. So let me tell you why you make how you making me feel bad. Like that's how that
Right.
happens. So here's the key. And again, I have to say this very carefully. I let people know all the time. It is not about the number of fights that you have. Uh, there are some people who never ever fight and have the most toxic relationships because they never ever talk. They never ever resolve issues. So you should understand that if you avoid conflict, it's going to be more difficult to have a healthy relationship. Now, it also doesn't mean all these things are a spectrum, right? So I don't want to be
Right.
completely avoidant, and I also don't want to be like running to every conflict that comes into my brain and just being like, I'm just gonna fight about it all. I'm fighting about everything. Like, choose your battles. But it's about how you, not how many fights you have, but how you fight and how you are able to uh, be constructive in those fights. When you can have constructive conflict and just know you're going to have conflict, arguing just boils down to conflict resolution. Like, how do we resolve this conflict? That's really all it can come down to. Um, Taking ownership for my own feelings, which is what we talked about last week as a part of nonviolent communication. Even simpler than that, the classic therapist I feel statements. I feel statements are non accusatory if I do them well, right? I
Right.
feel hurt. I feel sad. Remembering that, you know, there are no joint emotions. There's no emotion somebody's giving me. So I can't feel attacked, right? I
Right.
can't feel betrayed. Well, I can feel betrayed. I can't feel attacked. I can't feel, there's a lot of things I can't feel because other people don't give them to me, right? But I feel.
Right.
Start with big emotions: sad, happy, hurt, angry, right? Um,
Boil it down.
Boil it all down. Um, it's always better to have agreements in real life, face to face. We have a lot of technology at our disposal, and that kind of disarms us in a way. It's different to talk to somebody across a screen than it is to talk to them in real life. We
True.
perceive things about communication and how that communication is received. It also acts as a check in our behavior. Now, I understand why people want to argue via text, right? Part of it is because they want to have a written record of everything I said and everything you said, right? And for some people, that feels like an easier thing. The research shows that partners who do that are less happy in their relationship. Part of it is that we have the blessing of forgetting things that are not important to us,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let's say we're having an argument about who should cook dinner. And like, we're very upset about this because we're both very busy. 5 years from now, are either one of us going to care about that conversation? No,
No.
definitely not. And yet, if I have it in text, I can go back as long as I want to. And then I can link it to everything else that's happening right now. Even though, had I not documented that, it would have faded into memory probably by the next couple of days. We wouldn't have even thought
Right.
about that argument anymore, right? Um, if you're in a long distance relationship, do the next best thing. Talk face to face on a video, on a video platform, so at least you have
Yeah.
an idea of the impact of your words on your partner. It's really, really important to look people in the eyes when you're talking to them, because you get an understanding that our words change how people feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't change their feelings, right? But we can see the
Also, eye
impact
contact.
that we
Yeah,
have. So you want to make
yeah. Eye
eye
contact is
contact.
very important.
Super, super important.
Awesome. That's a great top 5 list. I hope
Yeah,
people get a chance to put that into practice, and then let us know how that works for y'all.
absolutely. Uh, I'll also let's see. I'm gonna make a promise, y'all. I don't know how long it's gonna take to complete this promise, but I will do it eventually. I'm gonna put together a one-sheeter that will outline the appreciation and celebration conversation that we talked about today, which is the State of the Union, with a little bit more detail, so that if you want to take that into your relationship and make that a part of your relationship, I challenge you to do that for, I don't know, 6 weeks and see what changes in your relationship. So I'll put together a 6-week State of the Union appreciation challenge, and I'll post it on our website.
Would that be a good thing for parents to do with their kids?
I don't work with children. My
You
knee
don't,
jerk,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, my gut reaction is that celebrating and appreciating people at any age in any relationship is a healthy thing to do if it's authentic. It's a healthy, authentic
Right.
thing to do.
That's what I
So I
thought.
don't see any reason why you wouldn't. But I always add the caveat: I don't work with kids. I don't know how kids
Right.
develop. I don't know. Like, I imagine it would be a good thing to instill gratitude. But you got to talk to a child psychologist about that.
Right. Right. Yeah, I imagine some form of that would be helpful.
Hmm.
Well, thanks, guys, for participating. You can hit us up on our social medias. You can swing on
Yeah,
over to our Instagram. We're over there at Rainbow Dreamcatcher, the Love Pod.
yeah.
Uh,
And let us know what you think about our new format. We are going to do shorter and more targeted podcasts. And I'm really excited because I think this is a format that's going to allow us to deliver a lot of good information to a lot of people quickly and really help folks in their relationships. So I'm excited about that.
yeah, and we encourage you to swing on over to our Patreon over at Rainbow Dreamcatcher, the Love Podcast.com. There you can just join the community. You can join for free. You're also welcome to subscribe to the community for there's a little tiny beginner fee, or you can go up to a full support. Any support is welcome. And of course, if you do become a subscriber, we will definitely give you shout outs on our episodes. So if you're like the type of person who loves to hear your name over the airwaves, feel free to become a subscriber, and we will be sure to do that for you.
Absolutely. Don't forget to hit us up on all the social medias. And if you have any questions or there are topics that you'd like us to explore, go on ahead and send us that information. You can send us that over the social medias. I'm going to let you throw out the social medias once more. But we would love to have your questions and also your topics.
Yeah, you can go to Rainbow Dreamcatcher, the Love Pod on Instagram. You can shoot us an email at rainbowdreamcatchertlp@gmail.com. Any of those places, Facebook. You can also hit us up individually. I'm pretty sure if you're listening, you can figure out how to catch us individually, or you can just easiest thing to do: scroll down to the description of this video or this episode, and all the links are there as well. So if you want
Wow.
us, you can find us.
You can find us. All right. Well, I think this has been Rainbow
Rainbow
Dreamcatcher,
Dreamcatcher, the
the
Love
Love
Podcast.
Podcast. Bye bye.
Bye.